Hello everyone, Minky here with the next part of Minky Mondays. I figured I might want to do another Zelda theory video today because I kind of wanted to build off of last week's episode and kind of see where I stand on the whole timeline stuff now before I start getting into the nitty gritty bits of it, if you will, where I start watching other YouTube videos and whatnot, and I look deeper into I look into Hyrule Historia and whatnot. I do have a copy of the book. It's just like I don't want to look at it just yet and see what the logic they use and whatnot. I don't want to. I don't want to spoil myself, if you will. I use the term spoil loosely, but I don't want to. I want to kind of give my ideas now before I give a proper look. Especially since I'm in Skyward Sword at the moment. I've been playing it as of late and I've not got to the. Well, I've not even played it since last week's episode, and I've only seen the cutscene with when young Impa actually destroys the gate of time. That's all I've seen really at this point in time, if you will, in the game. So, so today I just want to go over a few things in my Ocarina of Time 4-way split, just to clarify a few things and whatnot. Stuff that I think is worth going over before I go over some other games and whatnot. Specifically, I've kind of made it look a little better, so it's a little bit more understandable, if you will. Last time I was kind of working with Camtasia's sort of limited spacing, but this time I can kind of extend it, if you will. Not extend it, but I can at least make the picture a bit better, so hopefully this is more understandable. Basically, the story as I'm saying it is that just a quick rundown. I'll leave you a timestamp if you want to go ahead and skip the recap, but I'm going to recap it now and just to explain what my timeline theory is in case you just want a quick recap. So young Link. So obviously you start the game, right? You're young Link and you get Navi. You go to the Deku Tree and get the Kakeru's Emerald, and he tells you to go meet Zelda. Zelda tells you to go get the Golden Ruby and Sword of Sapphire, which you do, and then you pull the Master Sword and go ahead 7 years into the future. During that time, during the first week of your absence, a random child from the parents or grandparents or whatever of someone who came from Termina went to teach Guru the Song of Storms, which I labelled as a chorale child. A chorale child is basically, or a chorale idea is, chorale is a mispronunciation of choral, or which stands for King of Red Lions, so that's why he's a chorale child, because he's someone who's there to fix something, if you will, but it's not actually. It'll make more sense in another episode, but I can actually go over the Wind Waker. Anyway, so a chorale child talks to Guru and plays the Song of Storms. 7 years later, you pop back into existence, and you go get the Song of Storms, the Forest Medallion, Fire Medallion, and Water Medallion. Then you get to the Shadow Temple and you can't do it because you don't have the Lens of Truth. Therefore, you go back in time and you teach the Song of Storms to Guru. That gives you access to the bottom of the well, you get the Lens of Truth, and you go forward in time again. And during this time you do go back to the Forest Fire and Water Temples to collect the medallions, but obviously gameplay wise you don't do that, it's just story wise you do it, so that's why you don't have to redo dungeons when you go forward in time. That would be a cool concept if the game undid all the temples for you. Well, kinda, then you go and do the Shadow Temple for real. You actually do the Shadow Temple and you can defeat Bongo Bongo. And then you go do the Spirit Temple, but you can't do it as Adult Link, so you go back in time again. You beat the Spirit Temple as Young Link, then you go forward again, and you beat the Forest, Fire, Water, Shadow Temple again, off screen, if you will, and then you beat Spirit Temple as Adult Link, and then you defeat Ganon as Adult Link. Well, you just defeat Ganon, and then Zelda sends you back to before all of this even happened. Because obviously Zelda's back there, your young Zelda is back there, so that's why it's kind of before all this happened. And then you and Link, you and Zelda can then say like, oh hey, we've, this, that and the other, and Gandalf's evil, and therefore preventing that plan. And that's how the 4 timelines are made, where the Shadow Temple beat you and therefore Ganon is the ultimate winner, if you will. You've got the Spirit Temple beat you timeline, which is where Impa is the winner. Not winner, but she's like awakened as a sage, therefore she is able to help command sages and whatnot. You got the Adult Link, timeline where you defeat Ganon, and it goes on to Wind Waker and so on and so forth. And you got the Youngling timeline, which is the timeline there where Zelda sends you back to relive your childhood, and you go on to Majora's Mask and so on and so forth there. Alright, so that's the recap. So now my main idea I've got at the minute with these timelines, with these timeline shenanigans, if you will, is like trying to think of like a place for Skyward Sword to properly split, if you will. Because obviously, like it's quite weird. Because at the beginning, when you first see Old Impa, she says, I remember this pointed out to me in a video years ago. But Old Impa says that your visit to her was predestined. She said it was predestined, not just destined. So it was kind of like guaranteed to happen, if you will. So it implies that it's supposed to happen. It's like it's supposed to. You're supposed to go there, right? It was going to happen regardless, if you will. And when you beat the game, it kind of makes sense that it happens, because obviously, you see, the old Amber Relic, the Amber Relic Zelda in the background, if you will, in the back of the Sealed Temple, and you see, the bracelet on Old Impa, because that's at the end, that's in the credits. So, you see Zelda outright giving it to her and whatnot, so it's quite difficult to place it, to be honest, but I remember thinking I really wanted it to be another split, because I really liked the idea of there being a split timeline. I don't know why. But looking back, yeah, it's quite difficult to place, especially with what possible timeline splits could there be? I guess when Zelda goes back, that could be a possible timeline split. When Zelda herself goes back, and specifically as well as Young Impa, sorry, because Young Impa has come forward to the future somehow, and then she goes and picks up Zelda and helps purify Zelda, and then her and Zelda both go back to the past. Now, Young Impa doesn't just have access to future knowledge, she also brings someone back from this time period to the past, which obviously you see in the temple anyway, so it's she's always there anyway, so it kind of makes sense. And obviously you see her as Old Impa, she doesn't get turned into an Amber Relic as well. She just sits there watching over her, which I guess makes sense as to why Old Impa was sat there all this time, to protect, which I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's what, what's his name? Demise, the imprisoned, that maybe that's what the imprisoned is going for. He's not going for the Master Sword. Maybe he's going for Zelda behind the little gate thing. You know, because he knows she's there, if you will. Because she's obviously stealing his powers and whatnot, and he's trying to stop her from stealing his powers. And so, maybe the Master Sword idea was wrong. You know, because that... But then, obviously that raises the question of where is the Master Sword, the true Master Sword, while you're playing the game? You know, where's that gone while you're playing the game? Because obviously, obviously you play the game, you get given the Goddess Sword, and you go forth, defeat the first 3 dungeons. Zelda goes back in time, and now obviously, like I said, I haven't progressed further than the 3rd dungeon, so I don't know exactly, or I can't remember exactly how things progress after that. I can't remember all the text boxes and whatnot, or what's said. But like, the idea then of the game is that you battle the imprisoned, right? And then you have to go to the 3 dungeons, to the second 3 dungeons, and combine the Master Sword or the Goddess Sword with the 3 flames to then turn it into the false Master Sword. And by false Master Sword, I just mean it's not the true Master Sword yet. It's not got Highest Blessing yet. But it is this false Master Sword is good enough to open the new Gate of Time, which you then walk through. Zelda sees you, and she's like, "Oh, hi Link, let me bless your Master Sword for you, and then steal myself in an Amber Relic." And then you go forward in time, now with, you know, the true Master Sword, right? So the true Master Sword is now in the present, obviously. You've not left it behind. And then you continue on with your journey, doing the Song of the Dragons or whatever, and, you know, you beat the imprisoned one more time. I'm pretty sure you have to battle them 3 times overall. And then, after defeating... and then you've got the Sky Keep, right? And then you get the Triforce there, and then once you beat the Sky Keep, you make a wish in the Triforce, and that wish is to, you know, get rid of Demise or whatever, you know, get rid of the whatever his name is, right? And so he's now gone, right? He's now pretty sealed away, if you will, in the present time. But then you go and free up Zelda from the Amber Relic, and, you know, she's like, well, you free her up in the present, so she's now free. She's no longer in the Amber Relic in the present, right? Because obviously it wouldn't make sense for her to be freed up in the past, you know, especially when you've sealed her away, you know, the imprisoned in the present. So obviously you unseal Zelda in the present. And then Gurhin comes along and, you know, kidnaps the princess and goes back in time to get Demise out again. Which is why I'm thinking maybe he was after Zelda, because obviously it was Zelda who Gurhin sacrificed, if you will. And so, like, now you're in the past. You go in the past. You go to the past, basically. You know, and you battle Demise, and you defeat Demise, right? Seal his essence in the Master Sword. Which kind of implies maybe that's when it splits. Because obviously there's no more Demise anymore to torment the present, right? So maybe that's when it splits. You know, because you've kind of like gone rid of Demise a different way than initially planned, if you will. Which would leave the Goddess Sword, you know, in the sealed, not in the sealed temple, in the Goddess statue, right? Now, but before I jump ahead, so obviously you've sealed Demise within your Master Sword, and then you put the Master Sword within the pedestal of, presumably the pedestal of time, or some sort of pedestal in the sealed grounds. And then, but you're still in the past. Now you come to the present. I imagine the Master Sword is still there, but I think it was still there in the cutscene, during the credits and whatnot. And and you see Impa, and she's got like the bracelet on her arm, like you'd expect. She's like she disappears for some reason, and then that's game. That's it, and it's like, so the Master Sword was there this whole time. The true Master Sword was there this whole time, which is weird when you think about it, because it's like, maybe do you think it could have been like the ceiling spike? Maybe I kind of doubt that, because I feel like the ceiling spike wouldn't allow the Master Sword to exist within it without it jutting out, if you will. So yeah, now I'm thinking maybe the split is when you see your demise within the Master Sword, and that would leave the Goddess Sword, to become the Master Sword, not the Master Sword. It will leave the Goddess Sword in the statue, because now you have a Master Sword that's essentially now a bootstrap paradox kind of thing. I mean, we see where it comes from, but from the perspective of Link, or maybe not Link, but from the perspective of a third party, we don't know where the Master Sword came from. Which is maybe why the Deku Tree gets it wrong in Ocarina of Time. And so I'm thinking maybe like in one timeline, or maybe this is the same timeline, I don't know. But I'm thinking like maybe the Goddess Sword, I'm thinking maybe there's now two swords. A Goddess Sword, which is now effectively useless. Not useless, but it's now unmaster swordable. There's no point in turning it to the Master Sword now. And you've got the actual Master Sword. And the Goddess Sword would later become the Force Sword, maybe. Because the Hero of Man would use it because it's up in the sky, and so on and so forth. So, I don't know if that would be the split. Or but I think though, if let's say it does cause a split, I'm not exactly sure where or how it would cause a split, but let's say it would. Personally, for me, then the split from Skyward Sword would then be one timeline would go to Ocarina of Time, and the Kokiri, even though it's not mentioned at all, maybe the Deku Tree does it for whatever, but the Deku Tree says oh, Goblin and Green, kind of like what they do in Wind Waker, and what they do is that they're effectively honouring the Link from all the way back when, from Skyward Sword, by dressing up in green, kind of like Link from Skyward Sword. So they're effectively putting a Wind Waker to honour that hero. Whereas in Minish Cap, there really wasn't any sort of initial hero, except for the Hero of Man, who just so happens to not wear a cap. But he just so happened to be wearing green though, but not a cap. And then obviously you've got Link, you've got Minish Cap Link, who also just so happens to be wearing green for no reason, if you will, other than he just chose to wear it that day. So it was just a pure coincidence, which I know a coincidence kind of thing like that isn't the greatest, it's not the greatest opinion, if you will, or it's not, but I feel like it works. I feel like it kind of works because sometimes it does just land on random chance, to be fair. So, and then that Link, the Minish Cap Link, ends up becoming the hero. The hero is dressed in green, which is why all the Links in that timeline wear green. Wear green. More like he's the reason why all heroes sort of wear a cap, if you will, as opposed to just the green tunic, if you will. Whereas the Hero of Man just so happens to decide not to wear a cap that day. He didn't. Maybe he was just didn't want to, you know. But he still came from Skyloft and whatnot, because he came from the skies and with a sword that ended up becoming the Force Sword. And so obviously the Minish Cap, Four Swords and Four Swords Adventure, at least those three would appear on that timeline. And then on the other timeline you got Skyward Sword, not Skyward Sword, you got Ocarina of Time on the other timeline. And then Ocarina of Time obviously splits again into Majora's Mask and Wind Waker, or it doesn't, depending on if you want to believe it's linear. But personally I believe that it splits. So, I mean, if you believe it's linear, then why would you believe Skyward Sword is linear? You know, I don't think that's a common thought to have. Although, I say that's not a common thought to have, but I remember writing up like 4 different timeline theories. One that was linear, one where Skyward Sword split, what Ocarina of Time didn't, one where Ocarina of Time did but Skyward Sword didn't, and then one where both did. I remember doing that. I don't think I have all 4 timelines anymore, at least not the Skyward Sword split one, but, you know. But yeah, that's just an idea I've got with the whole Minish Cap split. Not Minish Cap, sorry, Skyward Sword. So, you know, I don't know if there's anything else I can really go over with this idea, because like I said, it's I've barely like gotten halfway through the game, you know, and so it's more of a case of like, you know, I've got to play more of it, which I'm not gonna do anytime within the next couple of weeks or so, but I will get on it soon, and then I'll be able to like take a proper look and see how things are then. So, you know, it's gonna be a while before I can actually probably do, you know, like an extension of this. But like, and plus I don't want to just do Zelda timeline theories for my Minky Mondays series. I want to kind of broaden it a little bit and make it basically about anything, if you will. So I don't want it to just be Zelda, you know. But I will make a part 3 to this as soon as I've played enough of Skyward Sword. I can kind of elaborate on my idea and whatnot. I'll do the same with Minish Cap as well, and all these other games as well, you know. Like, I'll try and play a few other games and whatnot, and see where I can kind of go with it. And I'll watch a few more timeline videos as well, and see if I can come up with any ideas, like any extension ideas. Obviously, I don't want to steal their ideas, because, like, you know, it's their ideas. They've obviously put a lot of thought into it as well. So obviously, I don't want to steal their ideas. It'd be nice if I could, but, you know, I don't want to. I'm not going to do that. You know. Yeah, I think that's it, really, for this episode. I think, you know, I don't think I've got really much else to say for it, so, you know, if you've got any feedback or anything of the sort, you know, any feedback or any criticisms or anything of the sort, I'd love to know, and I want to improve and whatnot. I'd love to do better for next time and whatnot, and yeah, I think that's going to be it. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a minky day.